Halloween night had always been my favorite time of year. The smell of carved pumpkins, cold air, and the sound of kids running down the street yelling, "Trick or treat!" It all felt harmless, nostalgic. That night, I was home alone. My wife was visiting her sister, and I'd volunteered to hand out candy. Our street was packed, groups of kids in costumes, laughter echoing under the orange glow of the streetlights. By 9 o'clock, it had slowed down. I was about to turn off the porch light when the doorbell rang again. I opened it, expecting one last group of stragglers, but there was just one kid standing there. He was small, maybe 8 or 9, dressed in an old-fashioned scarecrow costume. The mask was rough burlap, with button eyes and a stitched mouth. The costume looked handmade, not like anything from a store. He didn't say a word. I smiled, held out the candy bowl. "You're the last one, buddy. Take as much as you want." He didn't move, just stood there, head slightly tilted. The air felt colder suddenly. After a few seconds of silence, I laughed awkwardly. "All right, spooky enough for me." I dropped some candy into his bucket and started to close the door, but before it shut, I heard a whisper, faint, muffled through the mask. "That's what he said last year." I froze with my hand on the doorknob. The voice had been small, muffled, but too clear to mistake. "That's what he said last year." I opened the door again, fast. The porch was empty. The cold hit me like a wall, the kind that carries no sound at all. I looked up and down the street. The last of the trick-or-treaters were gone, just a few pumpkin lights flickering in the distance. I stepped onto the porch, scanning the yard. The scarecrow kid was nowhere. I told myself maybe I misheard. Maybe it was someone farther down the street. But as I turned back toward the door, something caught my eye. A small candy bucket sitting at the top of the steps. It was the same one the kid had been holding. Plastic, orange, with a cracked handle. Inside were 3 pieces of wrapped candy. Old wrappers, faded. I picked one up. The expiration date said 2004. My stomach dropped. I took the bucket inside, set it on the counter, and tried to shake the unease. Maybe it was some neighborhood prank. Maybe someone thought it'd be funny to freak me out. By 11, I'd convinced myself it didn't matter. I shut off the porch light and went upstairs. Around midnight, I woke up to another sound, a light knock on the front door. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow taps. I grabbed my phone, checked the time, 12:03 a.m. I crept down the stairs, heart pounding. Through the window beside the door, I could see the porch, empty. But the candy bucket was gone. I turned on the porch light. Still no one there. I opened the door, half expecting to find kids running off. Nothing but quiet street and rustling leaves. Then, from the far end of the yard, I saw movement. The scarecrow kid, standing perfectly still near the edge of the trees. The porch light barely reached him, but I could see the glint of his button eyes staring back. I called out, "Hey, enough games!" He didn't move. I took one step off the porch, and that's when the motion light in my driveway flicked on. For a split second, the kid was illuminated. Same costume, same mask, but his feet weren't touching the ground. He hovered just slightly, toes grazing the grass. Then the light went out, and he was gone. I backed into the house and locked every door and window. Sleep didn't come that night. Around 2 a.m., I finally sat in the living room, TV on low, trying to calm down. That's when I heard it again. 3 slow knocks. This time, not from the door, from upstairs. The sound came from the hallway outside my bedroom. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, echoing through the quiet house. I gripped the flashlight on my phone and forced myself to move. Every step on the stairs creaked louder than it should have. I reached the landing and paused, listening. Nothing, just silence, thick enough to make my skin crawl. Then, another knock. It was coming from the guest room. The door was half open. I nudged it with my foot and shined my light inside. The room was empty, except for an old wardrobe against the far wall. The sound came again, quieter this time, like knuckles brushing wood from inside it. I swallowed hard. "Who's there?" No answer. I stepped closer, each footstep heavier than the last. The wardrobe door rattled once. I could see it trembling ever so slightly. I reached out and yanked it open. Nothing. Just darkness and the faint smell of something old. Dust, hay, maybe fabric. I shined the light around. In the back corner, wedged between the wall and the shelf, was a burlap mask. The same one the kid had been wearing. I backed away slowly, heart pounding. My phone buzzed in my hand, nearly making me drop it. A new text from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have opened the door." Before I could react, every light in the house flickered off. The only glow came from my phone screen. Then, from the hallway, I heard footsteps. Slow, barefoot, coming closer. The floorboards creaked one by one, stopping right outside the guest room. I held my breath. The door creaked open just enough for a figure to appear. Small, shoulders slouched, head tilted slightly. The Scarecrow kid stood there, burlap mask back on, button eyes reflecting faint light from my phone. He lifted his arm slowly and pointed toward me. My flashlight flickered, then died. The last thing I heard before everything went black was the same soft whisper, right beside my ear this time. "Your turn." When I woke up, it was morning. The front door was wide open, and my phone was lying on the porch. Screen cracked. The candy bowl was tipped over. Pieces scattered across the steps like someone had stomped through them. I searched the house. Every room, every closet. Nothing out of place. The burlap mask I'd found in the wardrobe was gone. For a moment, I convinced myself it was a dream brought on by too much Halloween atmosphere and not enough sleep. But then I noticed something outside. Across the street, at the edge of my neighbor's yard, was a small orange candy bucket, the same one from last night. I walked over cautiously. Inside were 3 pieces of candy, the same faded wrappers, the same expired dates. But this time, there was something else at the bottom, a photo. It was an old Polaroid, the kind that yellows around the edges. It showed a man standing on a porch, handing candy to a child dressed as a scarecrow. The man was me, except in the photo, the date printed along the white border read, October 31st, 2004. I dropped it and backed away. Later that day, I told a neighbor about the strange trick-or-treater. He frowned and said, "You probably saw the Morris kid. Drowned in the quarry years ago. Used to wear a scarecrow mask every Halloween." That night, I left the porch light off, but sometime around midnight, I still heard it. 3 soft knocks on the front door. Halloween night during college was supposed to be fun. Cheap beer, loud music, and stupid costumes. But that year, it turned into something no one in our group talks about anymore. It was my friend Lucas's idea to rent the old 2-story house on the edge of town. It had this huge basement, perfect for a private Halloween party. He found it on Craigslist. Not Airbnb, not a venue, just some old guy renting it out for cash. When we got there, the house looked fine from the outside. Porch lights strung up, fake cobwebs, pumpkins on the steps. Inside, though, it felt off. The air was thick and cold, like the windows hadn't been opened in months. The landlord, an older man with glassy eyes, just handed Lucas the key and said, "Don't go past the basement door after midnight." We all laughed, thinking he was just playing into the Halloween vibe. By 10 p.m., the place was packed. Music pounding, people drinking, cheap fog machine filling the air. The only thing separating the basement from the rest of the house was a black curtain and a wooden staircase that led down into darkness. Around 11:45, the power flickered. Music stopped. Lights dimmed. Someone yelled from the stairs, "Hey, who's down there?" No one answered. Then the music turned back on by itself. Only this time, it wasn't our playlist. The song that started playing wasn't anything from our playlist. No pop, no dance, no Halloween mix. It sounded old, like something from a dusty vinyl record. A slow, scratchy piano tune that echoed through the speakers, out of sync with the party lights. Everyone went quiet for a few seconds. Lucas yelled, "Who switched the music?" But no one answered. The room filled with uneasy laughter. Someone joked that it was a haunted house Easter egg. Then the basement door opened. We didn't even see who pulled it. The black curtain hanging over the entry moved just enough for a cold draft to sweep through the room. A few people clapped and whistled, thinking it was part of the party, but the air coming from the basement smelled awful, like damp concrete and rot. I went over and peeked through the curtain. The light bulb halfway down the stairs was swinging slightly, like it had just been hit. I could see the steps vanish into complete darkness below. Lucas came up beside me. "I thought you said the landlord said not to go down there," I said. He shrugged, already buzzed. "It's fine, man. Probably where he keeps the fuse box. He grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen and started down the stairs. Everyone followed, of course. It was Halloween. Curiosity always beats common sense. The smell got worse as we went down. The floor was sticky, like something had spilled long ago and never dried. The flashlight beam shook as Lucas waved it around. The basement was big, bigger than it looked from outside. Concrete walls, exposed beams. No furniture, except for a single wooden chair in the middle of the room. And then we noticed the wall. It wasn't just concrete. Someone had painted it black, except in the center, where handprints covered the surface. Small ones, dozens of them. The air felt thick, almost wet. One of the girls whispered, "This doesn't feel right." That's when the music upstairs stopped. The sound of shuffling feet followed, slow and heavy, but everyone was in the basement. Lucas pointed the flashlight up the stairs. "Who's up there?" he yelled. The footsteps stopped. Then the bulb above us flickered once and went out. The entire basement went pitch black. Someone screamed. I dropped my drink. The flashlight hit the floor and rolled, spinning its beam wildly across the walls. Just before it died completely, I saw something. A figure standing in the far corner. Not one of us. It was tall, thin, and completely still. The last flicker of light hit its face. A pale, expressionless mask. Then the bulb popped, and we were swallowed by darkness. The basement was black. Not just dark, but suffocatingly black. You could feel it pressing in on you. People were shouting, scrambling to find their way back up the stairs. Then, from somewhere in the dark, we heard movement. Not panicked like us. Slow, deliberate steps circling the room. I fumbled for my phone, trying to turn on the flashlight, but my hands were shaking too hard. The air was so heavy, it felt like breathing through wet cloth. Someone screamed, high, sharp, and cut off halfway through. The sound made my blood run cold. Lucas managed to turn his light back on, and the beam flashed across the far wall. The tall figure was gone, but on the floor, the wooden chair we'd seen earlier was tipped over, and a trail of what looked like dark liquid led toward the back of the room, toward a narrow door we hadn't noticed before. Lucas moved toward it. I hissed at him to stop, but he kept going. "It's just a prank," he muttered. "It has to be." He pushed the door open. Behind it was a small room, bare concrete, no windows, and in the center, a circle of candles, long burned out, and what looked like a pile of costumes, old masks, robes, plastic pumpkins, except they weren't just lying there. They were arranged around something sitting in the middle, a mannequin, or at least that's what I thought until its head twitched. It turned toward Lucas. He dropped the flashlight. The beam hit the floor, catching a glimpse of the mannequin's face. It wasn't plastic. It was human. Rotten skin stretched tight, black stitches running through the lips. The thing moved again, joints cracking. We all bolted for the stairs. I swear I heard it following. Slow, dragging steps scraping across the concrete. The music upstairs suddenly blared back on, louder than before. Same eerie piano tune. The light in the basement flashed bright white for just a second, and in that flash, I saw dozens of figures standing along the walls, all wearing masks. When we burst out into the living room, the door slammed shut behind us hard enough to shake the floor. Lucas yelled, "Everybody out!" As we ran into the yard, I looked back one last time. Through the small basement window, I saw something press against the glass, a pale, stitched face watching us go. We never went back inside that house. The landlord didn't answer when Lucas tried to call the next morning, and when we drove by a few days later, the entire place was boarded up. A for sale sign leaned crooked in the yard. Lucas swore he saw someone standing behind the basement window as we passed. A pale face pressed against the glass, unmoving. I didn't look. I didn't want to. A week later, a police report came out online. The house had been condemned after unsanitary and hazardous materials were found in the basement. No one explained what that meant, but people around town started whispering. An old man at the gas station told us the story, said the property used to be owned by a mortician back in the 1960s. He worked from his home, storing bodies in the basement before burial. After his wife disappeared, the town shut him down. He hung himself in that same basement a few years later. I didn't want to believe it, but every Halloween since then, someone on campus posts about hearing piano music near that house. Last year, a group of freshmen went to explore it for fun. They found the door unlocked, and one of them posted a photo before their account vanished. A single wooden chair, sitting in the middle of an empty basement, with a fresh candy bucket resting on it. When I was 16, my friends and I had this Halloween tradition. We'd dare each other to do something stupid. It was harmless stuff at first. Ring a doorbell and run, walk through the cemetery at midnight, sneak into the old school gym after hours. But that year, the dare was different. Our town had a legend, the house on Lantern Road, an old, abandoned home at the edge of the woods that everyone said was haunted. They said the woman who lived there went missing on Halloween night 30 years ago, and every October 31st, she was seen standing in her doorway holding a lantern. Nobody ever proved it, but every kid in town swore they knew someone who'd seen her. So that night, around 11:30, my best friend Ryan dared me to walk up to the porch and knock. 3 times. We drove there with the windows down, music low, laughing the way only dumb teenagers can, before they realize they're doing something they shouldn't. When we turned onto Lantern Road, the laughter stopped. Every house on the street was dark, except one. At the very end of the road, a dim yellow light flickered behind a curtain. The others stayed in the car, engine running. I told them I'd be right back, just to prove it was nothing. But when I got to the front gate, the lantern in the window went out, and someone, or something, whispered my name from the porch. I stopped dead in my tracks. The voice wasn't loud, more like a breath right beside my ear. I spun around expecting one of my friends to be hiding near the gate, but they were still in the car. The headlights lit up the yard, just enough to show the overgrown grass and broken fence posts. Nobody was near me. I looked back at the house. The porch was still. The window where the light had been was pitch black. I told myself it was the wind, or my imagination, but the sound had been too clear. It said my name. I took a few more steps, crunching through the dead leaves on the walkway. The air was so cold, it hurt to breathe. As I got closer, I noticed how strange the house looked. The windows were covered from the inside with old newspaper. The wood on the porch sagged under my feet. The front door was cracked open just a few inches, swaying slightly, as if someone had just gone inside. I hesitated. Then Ryan honked the car horn behind me, yelling, "Come on, man, knock already!" So I did. 3 times. Each knock sounded hollow, like the wood was rotted through. After the last one, everything went dead silent. The crickets, the breeze, even the faint hum of the car engine felt like it vanished. Then came the creak of a floorboard from inside. I froze. "Hello?" A long pause. Then a dim orange light appeared again. Not in the window this time, but deeper in the house, like someone carrying a lantern through a hallway. The light moved closer, slow and steady, until it stopped just behind the half-open door. That's when the smell hit me. Damp, mold, and something metallic, like rust or old blood. The lantern's glow flickered brighter, and for a second I saw her silhouette through the crack. A woman, thin and tall, her head bent slightly to one side, long hair hanging over her shoulders. I whispered, "Ma'am?" The light went out. A second later, the front door slammed shut hard enough to shake the porch. I stumbled backward, tripping over a step. Ryan and the others started shouting from the car. I turned and ran, heart hammering. When I got to the gate, I looked back one last time. The door was open again, just a few inches, and hanging from the top of the doorway was a small, flickering lantern, glowing on its own with no one holding it. I bolted to the car and jumped in, shouting for Ryan to drive. Everyone was panicking, yelling questions I couldn't answer. The engine roared, tires screeched, and we sped down Lantern Road, like our lives depended on it. When I looked back through the rear window, the lantern light still glowed faintly on the porch, swinging back and forth like someone had just set it down. We didn't stop driving until we hit the main road. Everyone was pale and shaking. Ryan tried to laugh it off, said it had to be someone messing with us, but no one wanted to go back to check. Later that night, after we dropped everyone off, I went home and couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that faint orange light flickering in the dark. I told myself it was just nerves until around 2 a.m. when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Ryan. "Are you awake? I think someone's outside." Before I could reply, another message came through. "She's holding the lantern." I called him right away, but it went straight to voicemail. The next morning I drove to his house. His car was in the driveway. His front door was open. Inside, the place was empty. His phone was on the kitchen counter. Screen cracked. I picked it up, and my stomach turned. The flashlight was still on, pointed at the floor. There was a wet footprint just beneath it. One single footprint. Bare. The police found him 2 days later. He'd been walking along the highway miles from home, barefoot and confused. He kept repeating the same phrase over and over. "She found the light." They said he didn't remember anything after that night. He moved away a few months later. But here's the thing. On Halloween every year since, someone leaves a small lantern burning on his old front porch. No one ever sees who puts it there. It's been 8 years since that night. I've moved away, changed numbers, tried to forget Lantern Road. But every Halloween, no matter where I am, something always happens around midnight. Last year I was living 3 states away in a small apartment downtown. Halloween night was quiet. No trick-or-treaters, no parties. I thought I'd finally escaped it. Then, just after 12 a.m., the power flickered. For a few seconds, everything went black. When the lights came back on, there was a glow coming from outside my window. A small orange lantern sat on the fire escape, flickering faintly in the wind. I opened the window and leaned out, heart pounding. The street below was empty. No footsteps, no movement, just that soft orange light dancing in the dark. I reached out to grab it, and the flame went out instantly, but the glass was still warm. When I went back inside, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was an airdrop request. No name, no contact, just one photo. It showed my apartment building. The picture had been taken from the alley below, angled up toward my window. In the corner of the image, you could see a faint silhouette, a woman standing in the shadows, holding a lantern.